Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. So we are discovering or trying to discover or trying to realize ourselves or self-realization and talking about what exactly involved and that inquiry and how we realize ourselves. And we just mentioned that the first thing to know is who I am, because fundamentally I am taking myself what I am not as I am. Because whenever I say I am this, it means I am taking what I am not as I am, because I am the self and this is not self or non-self. So self is equated with the non-self, and self is a conscious existent entity, and any non-self is existent unconscious entity. So I am taking I am equal to this, and this is a common problem across the board for all human beings. In fact, for all living beings, as long as they are alive, because they have taken a birth. And everyone thinks I am this and not that, and I want that. This is a fundamental pursuit of all human beings. Let's talk about human beings at this stage, because this inquiry only can be done by human beings with the brain. So it is an inquiry. So when I say I am equal to this, we said there is a fundamental problem, because this is an object and I am a subject, and subject cannot be equal to an object, because subject is that which cannot be objectified. So how do I know who I am? Because everybody is operating that they know who they are and operating the whole life itself. Not only this life, life after life, millions of lives have been going through with this misunderstanding, I am this. So let's forget about all self-realization, try to find out who you are. So how am I going to know who I am? First thing is, you are not this. A simple fact. So anything this cannot be I. That's the basis. Because this is anatma or non-self or inert, and I am a conscious entity. Nobody can claim that I am unconscious entity. If he is claiming that I am unconscious entity, that means he is conscious entity. Because no unconscious entity cannot even say anything. So therefore, I am anybody who is able to express as I am is conscious entity. Consciousness and almost existent entity. So conscious existent entity is an expression of any life form in principle. A dog may not say, I am a dog, but he will bark enough to make sure the other dogs are not coming anywhere unless it likes the dog. So therefore, the dog knows its limitations, and dog knows there are other dogs who are different from him, and dog knows what is the food and what is the garbage. All that dog knows. That means dog knows this. But dog knows that it ends from the tip of his nose to all the way to the back of his tail. It knows that it is from the, that means as the body consciousness it has. It may have some emotional understanding in relation to his own puppies, at least it knows. And also it may have some intellectual little bit understanding. And it knows there is other dog which is different from different region, and this is my own friend, all that it knows. So therefore, dog has some knowledge, every living being has, even the tree has knows certain things also, because it knows where the food is, it goes through deeper into the roots where the water is, and it turns towards the sun where the sunlight is. All these things we know. That means it is conscious enough to look for happiness outside. So the reason for self-realization is nothing to do with anything. Number one, trying to know who you are. Because if I don't know who I am, I'm going to make a wrong judgment about myself. And in the process of wrong judgment, I'm trying to solve a problem where there is no real problem. And that has become a problem now. Why? Because when I say I am equal to this being limited, because this being limited by that which is not this, and I don't like the limitations of this, and therefore I want to acquire all that into this. That's what we said. Make it this bigger and bigger and bigger. And in the process, what I'm achieving? I'm trying to fight all my this one against anybody else, because other people also want the same. So life becomes a continuous struggle to increase this, and the whole, if you look at any country, people are fighting for it. Why? Because all they want this into their group. Is all the whole thing. Because everybody wants to end up with big this until when it stops. So my acquiring all this will only stop. There is nothing more to acquire. Simple, right? Because I am this, and this being limited, and I don't like limitations. Remember we said the moksha is freedom from limitations, and this is limited, and I am this. Therefore I don't want to be limited. I cannot be, I become unlimited only when this becomes unlimited. Clear? So when this becomes the everything, that there is nothing to exclude from this, then there is nothing else. Everything I have, I am this, and this is infinite. Follow now? So this is infinite, and I am this. Solves the problem. So how do I solve the problem? By acquiring everything in the universe, by putting infinite into this. Simple. But there is a problem. So I cannot make this into infinite. A finite this cannot become infinite by adding finite things. Finite plus finite is finite. That is mathematics. Finite plus finite cannot never become infinite, however much I try to. But I cannot stop doing it because I don't like this. I don't like the limitation of this. So everyone is struggling to find out to make this into infinite, which they cannot do. See the problem now. So I'm trying to solve a problem where I take I am equal to this, that's one problem, and I don't like the limitation of this, that's a second problem, and therefore I try to solve the limitation of this by acquiring that, and in the end my goal is to make this infinite so that there is nothing else for me to add. I am full now, or I have this full, and since I am this, I am also full. Yeah. So only way, the end solution of this problem or human problem is to make this infinite, and that's what Vedanta calls this infinite is called Brahman. So I am this has to become infinite, and this can become infinite only, which is what is called Brahman. So I am Brahman. So I am this has to become I am equal to Brahman, then the problem is solved. Simple. That means the self that I am is infinite, therefore there is no more longing for anything, because everything is I have. So one way to solve a problem is to make this infinite by a process. So any process which is finite cannot make another finite infinite, because it's all mathematically illogical. So finite plus finite is only a finite and never infinite, but I cannot stop this process because I want to make this infinite, and Everybody is struggling to do this. Whether it is an animal or a plant or a human being, whether you're an Indian or an American or a white or a black or a brown or anywhere, trying to solve a problem and trying to solve a problem by a process, and the process will never solve the problem because you want to reach infinite. You want to reach a bigger, but you are not happy with it because it's still finite. So nobody will be satisfied with what they have. Because even if you say I have $1 million, I don't have I have enough, then what else you are looking for? But I want a power, I want that, I want that. Still that is there, may not be identified in terms of property, but in terms of something else, that. So Brahman, the infinite, it limitless in all directions. That means there is nothing beyond in anywhere, in any direction. That Brahman, that infinite, can never be achieved by any process, whether it's a kundalini raising or that raising or meditation or name it, that any process will not make this into infinite. Now you understand what Vivek Krishnamurti says, the truth is a pathless land. It's a pathless land provided that truth is infinite. If it's finite, then it has to be process. It's ridiculous to say if the truth is finite, then there has to be a process for it. If the pathless land or a pathless state means it is infinite. That is Brahman. So the solution to the problem is I want to make this infinite, and problem in the solution is I cannot make this into finite by any process. So there cannot be any process to make this into infinite. So all human struggle and suffering and everything is trying to solve a problem where the problem has trying to solve by a process, and the process can never solve a problem because by any process one cannot become infinite. Clear? Therefore, self-realization also cannot be a process. We said this cannot become infinite. How about the self? Because I want this, I am this. Because I am this means I am infinite, whether by this as or by, as I am, by any process. This is a fundamental understanding should be there, that any process, irrespective of what it is, you say, oh, this you do this, or you do that, or you do yoga, self-realization cannot be a process. You can say upside down or control your breath or objectless awareness, all the statements, how do I do? Sit and meditate. That's a process. So no process which is a finite can take me into infinite. That should be clear. Then at the same time, I cannot but do this process. This is my problem. I cannot become infinite, and I cannot stop trying to become infinite. So this is a bigger problem. So only way I can stop becoming infinite is recognize that I am already infinite. Then the solution is a problem. So it's not that I want to become infinite, because I can never become any in that way, but longing to become infinite seems to be very intrinsic. That's a human pursuit itself. I cannot avoid it. I cannot become by any, but at the same time I cannot stop also. And only way is the solution to the problem and the stop is that recognize that I am infinite as I am. Then there is no more seeking, there is no more looking for, there is no more longing mind, there is no more desiring mind, because I am full as I am. Because I am, which is an existent conscious entity, as it is infinite. Now you can see why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, says the Prajahati Idakaman Sarvan Parthamanogatam Atmani eva atmana tushtaha sthita prajna sadochyate. Who is sthita prajna? The one who is reveling in himself by himself. Atmani eva atmana. So why does he revel? Because he is infinite as he is. That's what reveling means. Means he is knowing and enjoying his own self. And he doesn't need anything else because he is already full. Therefore, prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha. All desires are gone and therefore he is reveling. He is called sthita prajnaha. And that's what the Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita is trying to point out in the direction you are as you are infinite. Aham brahmasmi. I am infinite. Aham brahmasmi means infinite. Brahman means infinite. So the Brahman word is itself is coined. Brahman means big. So bigness. So anything is bigger and bigger and bigger. So what is the biggest one that cannot be compared with anything else? Because you say the big is an adjective normally. So big is an adjective that qualifies a noun. This is a big mountain when you say. So compared to a normal mountain, this is a big mountain. This is a big mosquito. We are now not comparing with the norm of a mountain now. We are comparing a normal mosquito in relation to that. This is a big mosquito. Right? So is the noun is being qualified by big, but big itself is qualified by the noun that you are comparing. Because a mosquito noun is different from a mountain noun. But a big that is unqualifiedly big is itself is the bigness, and that's what is the coin, the word Brahman. Brahman means not just a Sanskrit word, a word that indicates it is infinite. Infinite is not a word by itself, it is only negation of any finiteness. But infinite, is it a unconscious infinite or conscious infinite? It's a very interesting question now, because infinite can be conscious infinite or unconscious or mixture of both. It says, when I say I am infinite, I am is existent unconscious entity. But existent unconscious entity is also there. How do we know that conscious entity itself is infinite? Which has to exist, of course. We are not talking about non-existent consciousness. So existent conscious entity itself is infinite. How do we know? This is where the Vedanta comes as a science. It says as one of the Mahavakya means the aphoristic statement, the fundamental statement is, first statement is Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam Brahma means consciousness is infinite. It's a declaration by the scriptures called Vedanta. So why should I believe Vedanta? Don't believe, there is no problem. But this is a statement of fact. A science is that which still indicates a fact. Now, that has to be clear. Science is a word itself is derived from the word seer, means to know. Science is derived from the word seer, S-C-I-E-R, seer means to know. So science means that knowledge. So science itself, word literally meaning is knowledge, that which can be known. And in Sanskrit, vid means to know. V-I-D, vid means to know. Veda means knowledge. So Veda is not just a scripture. Veda points out it is a knowledge. What is a knowledge? Knowledge is something about a fact. Light travels on such and such a speed. That's a fact. I don't believe it. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, light travels on such and such a speed. Those are facts. It's nothing to do with the belief system and nothing to do with that I had to join something in order to know that it travels on this. It is a statement of fact for those who want to know. If I don't know light travels on that, then I have to learn by studying that science. Then I discover that light travels at such a speed. I may not be able to experimentally find out, but it's already been declared and decided, and I can experiment and prove it, but it's proved by the sages around, sages of the science, or called scientists, that science, the light travels at such and such a speed. There was a big experiment, and I think Mentok-Morlow experiment, where they're trying to find out the speed of the science, speed of the light, and they want to know if it is rotating along the earth versus counter to the earth, the speed should differ, because one is going along the earth, another is going opposite to the earth. So the one who is going opposite earth is helping, so it should be faster compared to one who is going along, because by the time you go, the earth is already there also moved. So it should be slower when you're going in the direction of the rotation of the earth, and it will be faster if it's going opposite to the direction of the earth, and they want to prove. Unfortunately, they proved that light doesn't depend upon the speed of the earth. You get the same speed whether this way or that way. A negative result, but negative result became the positive, because that changed the whole concept of light electromagnetic radiation, because they found out that it is independent and it's constant irrespective of whatever you do. So light travels always at that speed. Therefore, that is a fact indicated by a science, by process of experimentation. And Veda is a science of trying to tell you what are the facts which cannot be experimented. Be careful here. Other science or objective sciences can be experimented and found out, whereas this is a thing that is consciousness, cannot be experimented and found out. There are some people recently say quantum mechanics is able to discover the consciousness, and there is a lot of experiments trying to find out how consciousness arises, because all these science, objective sciences, think that the matter came first and consciousness somehow means they don't know what it means, that under certain circumstances a consciousness arose. Like Vedanta says, no. Consciousness is infinite. So what does that mean? Infinite cannot arise. So consciousness has to be beginningless. And that which is beginningless is endless. So consciousness is eternal, number one. Consciousness is infinite. There is no spatial limitations or time-wise limitations. And that's what the Vedanta says, pointing in that direction. Therefore, I cannot investigate consciousness. That is ridiculous, because the fact that when I try to investigate, I am objectifying the consciousness. Consciousness cannot be objectified. It is the very subject who is investigating that. The one scientist who is trying to investigate the consciousness is conscious entity. And he cannot objectify, because he is the one who has to be subject who is investigating. That's what it means by subject cannot be objectified. Therefore, Vedanta becomes a fundamental science to point out in the direction to know that what exactly are the real facts. That's why Vedanta is a pramana. So therefore, Vedanta says the consciousness is infinite. What about existence? Existence is also infinite, because you cannot have some existent which is conscious and some existent non-conscious. If consciousness is infinite, it has to exist. Therefore, that Brahman is a consciousness, because that's by declaration by Vedanta. Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is infinite. So Brahman is conscious entity, and that conscious entity has to exist. Therefore, it is also Sat and is also Chit. Sat means it is existing unconscious entity. So, why are we saying all that? Because when I say I am, we stated that I am involves existent am, I, conscious entity. So, existent consciousness that I am, Scripture says it is infinite. Brahman. What am I looking for all my life? I want this, remember? And I want this to be so big that everything is included. That means this, I want this to be Brahman, and I am going by a process which cannot be done. But here the statement is, very careful, statement is, I am conscious existent is infinite. So what I am looking for? I am looking for a self. Self-realization is I want to know who I am. And scripture says, I am existent consciousness that is infinite. So how do I define I am? Please tell me who you are. How do means who's tell me you are this again? So no one can define I am, because I am, if you define it, any definition pertains to an object. I am, this I have to say again. Hence, if you look at the biblical statement, I am that I am. That's what the Moses hears. The God saying, I am that I am. Why is he repeating I am that I am? Because he cannot say anything else. Because if he says anything else, then anything is an object which he is not. He can only say, I am pure existent consciousness, and there is incomparable, there is nothing else to say I am an unobjectifiable entity that I am. And that is a biblical statement. And the same statement in a way is Vedantic statement, Aham Brahmasmi, I am infinite. And the Brahman is I am infinite means I am existent consciousness is infinite. Because Prajnanam Brahma, conscious existent is infinite. So now we are trying to find out self-realization involves understanding clearly that I am is Brahman. That means I am infinite, I am a conscious entity which exists. Therefore, since I am infinite, I am limitless. Since I am limitless, I have no limitations of any kind. Since I don't have any limitations, there is no longing for anything. Therefore, I am full as I am. Therefore, I am free. Because freedom is defined as the limitations that contributes to the suffering. So I am that I am, or I am the self, involves recognition. Nothing to find out. I am already that. Recognition, reanalyze by reanalyzing, that's called self-realization, is reanalyzing, that involves where I am mistaking myself what I am not as I am, but taking what I am as I am is involving self-realization. Self-realization is to know clearly who I am. With this background, we'll go into more details in the next talk. With this, we stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.